I stood by the gate, white, creaky decorated with ivory-colored ribbons. To the left a tent, to the right a wooden arch wrapped in eucalyptus. A wedding venue just outside Savannah, Georgia, very Instagrammable. Too pretty to be genuine. Too familiar to be a coincidence. My dress was neutral dusty pink, floor length. No screams of, "I'm a guest." Flats on my feet, and an iPad in my bag, just a habit. I took a few steps forward, as if I was just out for a walk. Then a voice, behind me, slightly to the side. Was she invited? It sounded like a whisper, but with that certain tone, not a question, a statement. I turned and saw a girl from college. Jenna? 3 years ago, she'd asked me to help with her portfolio. Now she looked at me like I was a waitress lost on her way to the kitchen. I nodded and stepped back. Turned around. Walked slowly to my car parked in the shade of a pine tree. On the license plate, a phrase I'd registered with the Georgia Department of Transportation a couple months ago. Art boss. I opened the door, sat behind the wheel. My hands were shaking. But not from hurt. From a strange, almost life-affirming feeling. That's it. Now you see it. No filters. I have to say, a few days before this, my expectations were different. I returned home to Atlanta after another shoot photographing a clothing collection for a small brand created by 2 Black women designers. Opened Instagram. And boom. Save the date, Emily and Josh, number from college to chapel. Date in 7 days. Place a suburb of Savannah. At first, I didn't even understand why I was shaking. Maybe because I was the one who introduced Emily to Josh. Maybe because 3 years ago we lived together in Brooklyn, shared plates, worked late into the night on her Columbia Business School presentation. Maybe because she promised I'd be her maid of honor once he proposed. I was there when she doubted, when he disappeared for a week, when she cried and I brought Ben & Jerry's half-baked from the corner shop. I didn't ask for thanks. But I thought I deserved at least. A text? Nothing came. I scrolled through stories, Jenna, Marisa, even some guy from Josh's lab were tagged. Me, no. My fingers froze on the screen. At the bottom, brunch for our inner circle 1 hour. Me? I was outside the circle. And now here I am. 1 week away. Not because I hoped they'd suddenly remember me. Number. I just wanted to see it with my own eyes. To close the chapter. Once we talked about her having an arch of eucalyptus. Once I photographed her first LinkedIn photo shoot. Once she called me her second sister. Now I wasn't on the list, not even a backup. I was a shadow in her story. I started the engine. Savannah didn't care. Warmth, sun, a light breeze from the river. I looked through the windshield and thought, this isn't about a wedding, it's about choices, about who we leave behind when we build our picture. They chose not to invite me. And I chose to come anyway. Why? Because I'm tired of being the person you call only when you need help. I'm tired of being behind the scenes while others pose in white. I'm tired of explaining why my life isn't a phase, why drawing, shooting, creating isn't just until you find a real job. I put on music. Her Fight for You. Took a few photos, the sunset hit the arch beautifully. Posted one image to my story, caption. Sometimes, the most important thing you can attend is your own awakening. Closed my phone. Drove onto the highway. And, in my head, silence. Not emptiness, but clarity. I wasn't on the list. And that gave me the freedom to create my own. I always thought sisterhood wasn't about blood, it was a choice. And Emily chose me. We met in high school in Chicago. I had just transferred from another district backpack covered in markers, drawing on everything, even the backs of my algebra notebooks. Emily was the one who sat in the front row, led every club, and wore sweaters with the National Honor Society emblem. Suddenly, she sat down next to me in the cafeteria and asked, "Did you draw that anime girl yourself?" And that was it, from that day on together. We went to brother-sister events at the YMCA, took photo shoots with an old Canon camera, watched Moulin Rouge with popcorn and laughed just as loud. She called me Madsy, I called her Professor Ems. When it was time to apply for college, we both dreamed of leaving, breaking out of the gray. I chose a college in Atlanta with a good digital media program. Emily, a business program in Savannah. And we agreed. We'd share an apartment halfway between our campuses. 2 years like one family. I studied late at night, edited videos, sold illustrations on Fiverr for $20. Emily wrote case studies, prepared for Deloitte career fairs. But in the evenings, we were just two girls with a bottle of Prosecco and plans for the future. When she met Josh, I was there. He was awkward, stammering, but sweet. Of course, I checked his LinkedIn, startup, bioengineering, plus points. After 3 months, she wasn't sure if it was worth continuing. He missed her birthday. I was making her a toast with avocado and listening. I don't know, Madsy. He just gets lost. And you don't. You're growing. He has to catch up, not you adjust. She stayed with him. I didn't argue. A year later, he came to me with a little box. Madison, you're her best friend. Can you help me pick a ring? I chose. For a long time. Went to 6 stores. We settled on a classic with an oval diamond and a thin platinum band. Elegant. Like her. Back then, it felt like we were forever. Even when I started taking more freelance jobs, then clients on retainer, then launched my own studio. Even when I hit 50K followers on Instagram, then 100K. When brands came to me, I told her first. She said, "You're a star, I'm just the spreadsheet girl." I laughed, but then I started noticing something strange. In her stories, I appeared less and less. On Zoom calls, she brushed off my news. "Oh, art again? Okay, tell me." At one dinner with her colleagues, she asked, "Can you not say you're a freelancer? Just say you're a visual consultant or whatever." I laughed, but inside it hurt. Then came her birthday, a big party on a rooftop in downtown Savannah. 40 people. DJ, catering, cocktails. I made name cards, a banner, and all the design. For free. As a friend? Then I heard her tell someone, "Yeah, our contractor did that. I paid her a little." Contractor. That was the snap. Like I'd turned from sister into a convenient resource. But I still hoped, still thought it was a phase. Then the wedding. And no invitation. That's when the puzzle came together. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Madison, who I grew up with, who went through college and adulthood with me, had left. And whoever she had become now, I didn't fit in her new world anymore. Do you know what a almost sister is? It's when you're always nearby, but have no voice, no seat at the table. But there's another side. An almost sister is someone who knows how loyalty is built, how to build a foundation from broken moments, how, after being told you're outside the circle, to create your own circle. And that's exactly what I started doing. Because when they show you your place, you can either accept it or draw a new one. Next week, I came up with a concept that will change my career. But that is a story for the next chapter. Moving to Atlanta was a decision I made without anyone's approval. For the first time in a long time. I found a loft in the Cabbagetown neighborhood with brick walls, concrete floors, and floor-to-ceiling windows. An old tobacco warehouse turned into creative spaces, a dream for any visual introvert. Here, I didn't know a soul. And that was perfect. I started small, rented a room, bought softboxes, ordered backdrops, and painted one wall a green-gray tone. The studio had a simple name, M Studio. My first shoot was a jewelry catalog for a girl from Decatur. She sold handmade rings on Etsy. She paid $180 in cash and said, "You shoot like Vogue, but with soul." That was the beginning. I didn't chase big brands. I worked with the real ones. Food trucks, vintage boutiques, girls launching candle businesses on TikTok. Those who don't get on billboards but have fire in their eyes. I wasn't shooting a product, I was capturing proof of belief in oneself. Clients came back. Some paid up front, some invited me to lunch, some just said, "You saw me the way I couldn't see myself." And in that moment, I started feeling like I was coming back to myself. Not as the right hand or the girl who takes care of everything, but as me. And in the background, shadows from the past began to come. At first, calls from Emily, every couple of weeks. Her words changed. More dry. Sharper. You're probably in your creative bubble again? We were hanging out with the guys. Oh, right, you're probably busy. Then I noticed how she forgot to text me. In group chats, she made sure to show she had different priorities now. Madison? Oh, she was always a bit eccentric, a creative type. I didn't react. But inside I felt it. She was drifting away. On purpose. Then came the day I'll never forget. I woke up, as usual, at 7:45. Made coffee. Opened Instagram. And saw a story from Marissa, Emily's work friend. Best bridal shower ever, won a number M gets the ring. In the background, garden glam decor. White roses, a balloon wall. Girls in beige dresses, pink prosecco. And on the table, those same marble snack plates I once gave Emily for her housewarming. I scrolled. Emily in a white jumpsuit. Everyone was there, except me. I silently closed my phone. Saturday on the windowsill. Just sat, with a cup now cold. A few hours later, I texted her. I see you had a beautiful evening, congratulations. The reply came fast, with a period. Thanks, it was just a small gathering, you're busy anyway. You. Busy anyway. Is that what "you're not in our circle" means now? You're busy. It said it all. A word that sounds respectful but means, we no longer consider you part of it. That evening, I went to the studio. Closed the doors. Turned off the lights. Saturday on the backdrop and took a selfie no makeup in an old t-shirt that said "Create like a girl." Caption under the photo. Sometimes they think they're pushing you away, but you're just gaining room to soar. I posted it. Hundreds of likes. Comments from women who wrote, "That was me last year. Madison, you say the words I was afraid to even think. Thank you for not fearing to be excluded." That's when I understood. I wasn't invited to the bridal shower, but I'm hosting an awakening. Not just for myself. For everyone who once heard. Just keep a low profile. Number. Now only full height. I moved to Atlanta with 2 suitcases, a Canon R6, and a laptop whose battery lasted exactly as long as a rooftop photo shoot. At first, I lived in a studio above a coffee shop in Cabbagetown, a small space, chipped brick walls, weird neighbors, but I was breathing. After Savannah, it felt like the air of freedom. I launched a mini studio, Matting Studio. My first clients were a local candle workshop, 2 women, Laurel and Kiara, who paid $400 per session but treated me like the art director of Vogue. Then came florists, coffee shops, even an emerging eco-bag brand. Instagram grew. Local influencers reposted my work. People started messaging me with "Ask Madison." I finally felt my name spoken in the right context, not as the bridesmaid, but as the creator of visuals. But amid all this, Emily's calls became rarer. Where we used to talk for hours about nail polish colors and television shows, now she replied 2 days later. I called her, she'd hang up with, "Sorry, first dance rehearsal." That first dance we had planned together since we were 16, dancing in pajamas to Taylor Swift in the kitchen. Then came the day I still remember with the feeling of eating ice cream with nails in it. I saw stories from others. Group photos. Mimosas, a sign, "Bridal bash for M." All in pink and white tones, exactly how I once suggested. The same letters, the same engraved glasses, but without me. I didn't message her immediately, didn't scream in DMs. The next day, she messaged me like nothing happened. "Oh, it was just a small gathering. Aunt from Jacksonville decided to bring everyone together." "You're busy anyway. I see your shoots." I replied, "Good luck with the prep." And that was it. That was the first time I realized keep a low profile isn't just advice for the humble, it's a polite way of saying stay out. I wasn't in the frame. Not on the list. Not on the runway. And that was okay. Because I knew I have a studio, I have a voice, and I have a lens. If I'm not in their album, I'll shoot my own. I still went to Savannah. Not because I hoped someone would suddenly remember me and invite me, not to show myself, but because the ticket was already bought. And you know what? It was my city too. I rented an Airbnb in the Victorian district, an old house with a porch, a ceiling fan, the scent of magnolias, and something familiar, comforting. I arrived alone, with my camera, with a plan only I knew. Instead of going out to the wedding venue, the one where Emily planned a vintage arch by the river, I went where we once dreamed of doing an art shoot, an old print shop, an abandoned hangar by the old bridge, and a vacant hall of a former museum. There, I started shooting a series I called Excluded. The first model, Brie, a barista from the cafe where I had breakfast. The second, a former dance teacher I met on a walk in the park. The third, myself, camera on a tripod, dressed in black, standing before closed wrought iron gates, looking into the lens like into a mirror. The compositions were simple. A woman behind glass. A woman in an empty banquet hall. A woman with a cake but no guests. A woman holding an invitation torn in half. There was no pity, no anger, only honesty, and a camera that saw all of me. I went back to the house, edited the shots at night. Laptop light reflected off the wooden ceiling. I sat on the floor with a cup of cold coffee and posted the series on Instagram. Captioned, "Sometimes, those who aren't invited make their own table. Number excluded, number uninvited does not mean unworthy." By morning, 2 galleries had reposted it, a feminist artist from Brooklyn, and even one bride wrote, "You said what I was afraid to say. Thank you." You know, I suddenly realized, they crossed me out but not my power. And while someone rehearses vows, I'm signing my own contract with myself. Don't ask for a seat, create the stage. When I posted Excluded, I didn't expect everyone to see it. I just wanted to release the pain, to turn it into a frame, into a composition, into art. But within a day, I got a message from an editor at Women Make blog. She wrote, "This series is not just photos, it's a mirror. We want to interview you." Then came reposts. Bustle. Miss Magazine. One shot a woman behind glass holding a wine glass landed in Pinterest's non-traditional wedding inspiration category. People wrote, "There's more truth in this than in any bridal photo shoot. This looks like me. When I wasn't invited, thank you." A week later, the New York Times style desk called. They offered a column, "When you're not on the guest list, but create the moment." I said yes. And then, irony of fate, a San Francisco magazine preparing a special issue called Alternative Brides reached out. They offered a contract. Paid not like a newbie with a camera, but as a full-fledged visual artist, $7,000 for the project. At that moment, I just exhaled and thought, here's my RSVP to my own life. But on the 4th day after the publication, an email came from Emily's agent. Subject, urgent copyright concern. Dear Madison, it has come to our attention that one of the photos in the Excluded series features a dress visually very similar to a designer piece worn by Miss Emily Ward at a private event. We kindly ask you to remove the image to avoid legal consequences and damage to reputation. I reread the email about 10 times. At first, seriously. Then with a smirk. The photo showed a silhouette of a dress, a woman's back. But even if it were Emily's dress, since when do emotions become a violation of rights? I replied, "Dear Sir or Madam, the photograph is staged. The look was created in collaboration with the model. The dress is thrifted and styled by me. And by the way, no one can claim rights over the background of pain. Art does not break boundaries. It reveals them. Thank you for your attention." No reply. But the photos stayed. The very next day, another shoot, a woman from Atlanta. She had a scar from a fiancé's premature rejection. I shot her in the same frame, a woman before a closed door but with a key in her hand. She said, "You give us a language." Before I couldn't explain what I felt. And I thought, I used to not get invited to weddings. Now I create albums for those who survived without them. The message came on a Sunday at 7:41 a.m. Sender's name, Emily. Bride mode. We hadn't exchanged messages since March. The last thing she sent was a meme about our startup days together. I left it on read, because I already knew we had very little in common anymore. And now this. Did you really decide to build your career off my wedding? No hi. No, how are you? I reread the message, then put down my phone and stepped outside. The Atlanta morning air was warm, coffee wasn't brewed yet, and I already felt that old pressure settling on my shoulders again. Only after 20 minutes did I reply, "You chose not to invite me. I just used the silence you left behind." Sent it and put the phone away. No emotional breakdown, no relief. Just truth. No exclamation marks. No reply came. Not at 8 a.m., not by noon, not the next day. But sometimes a quiet reaction speaks louder than a scream. Monday morning, a newsletter from Vogue Weddings arrived. I opened it and paused for a second. There, under the block, New Voices in Wedding Photography, my name. The Uninvited series by ML. They didn't print my full name by my request. I liked the abbreviation. It was about me, but not about her. Under the photo, a woman holding flowers, standing before an empty altar of dried branches. Caption: Sometimes the most powerful presence is the one you tried to erase. I sat on the floor, barefoot, with half-drunk coffee, staring at the screen. Funny, I almost didn't go. Almost stayed in Atlanta. But I went. Not for revenge. For myself. And now Vogue called it art. And the one who forgot to include me now had to see my name in the Feature Stories tab. You know, I wasn't gloating. I just felt, for the first time, I'm not a guest. I'm the author. A cozy living room in Emily's parents' house in Savannah. Close friends and family have gathered after the wedding. Evening. The lights are dimmed. On the table, remnants of snacks and drinks. Emily's mother approaches Madison with a gentle smile, holding out an invitation envelope. Madison, we know it's been hard for you, but after the party, there will be a small after-party at our house. It would mean a lot if you came. You're like a sister to Emily. Madison stays silent for a few seconds, looking down at the envelope in her hands. Her inner voice, voiceover. This isn't just an invitation. It's an attempt to replace what was lost, to fill the void they created themselves. But I'm not a filler, I'm a creator. Madison replies politely but firmly. Thank you, but I'm not a replacement. I don't fill voids. I create my own spaces. She carefully places the envelope back down and calmly walks out of the room, leaving behind the quiet murmur of the celebration. Her voiceover continues. True closeness isn't in obligatory gestures, but in the sincere choice to be together. And I chose myself. The camera pulls back, showing Madison walking down the evening city street confident, free, and ready for new horizons. I stood in a large conference hall in Charlotte, where I was launching my photo project and retreat for women who had experienced exclusion, devaluation, and invisible loss. I called it Backstage No More. Around me were dozens of women, each with her own story, her own pain, and her own strength. This project was born from my personal experience, how I was excluded from Emily's wedding, how I was left off the guest list on one of the most important days of her life. Instead of breaking myself down, I decided to create a new space where no one would ever feel extra. On the display board I designed with my team, there was a photo of me standing by a wedding arch, but the ribbon was torn, symbolizing a break with the past and the start of a new chapter. It wasn't just an image, it was my manifesto. I watched as brands got involved, local foundations offered grants, and women who had once been afraid to speak out now opened up and shared their stories. Together, we built a community of support and strength. That day, amid applause and gratitude, I realized I was no longer the one standing in the shadows of someone else's events. Now I had my own guest list, and we invited only those who value true honesty and the courage to be themselves. This was my new path, not to seek revenge or prove anything, but to create and inspire. And I knew there were many more gatherings, stories, and victories ahead. A year later, I stood in a conference hall in Atlanta, facing an audience filled with people passionate about visual culture and the power of imagery. It was one of the biggest conferences of the year, and I was giving an interview about my project, Backstage No More, about the importance of creating your own spaces and changing the rules of the game. In the interview, I spoke not only about the photos and the retreat, but also about my personal journey, about how I was excluded from a wedding, and how I turned that into the beginning of something new and real. My words resonated. People smiled, nodded, and many shared their own similar stories. After the interview, I stepped outside where a wedding photo shoot was happening right in front of the building. White dresses, laughter, hugs. I stopped, watching the scene, when suddenly I heard a familiar voice. "Are you Madison Lewis?" I turned and saw the photographer working at the wedding. He smiled, extending his hand. "Yes, but you won't find me on anyone else's guest list," I replied with a slight smile. "Now I choose where I belong." In that moment, I felt not only calm but strength, the strength to choose my own path, my own circle, my own moments of joy and victory. No borrowed bouquets, no staged scenes, just growth and true freedom.